Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, a YouTube channel for Kings fans by Kings fans. Calvin, on today's show, the Kings win a game finally against the Nets, 112-101 tonight, snapping a 7-game losing streak. We have a couple fans here. Shout out James and Mackenzie here in the studio with us. Sorry we're a little late, Jeff. We're celebrating the win.
Yeah, we needed some more beers so we could go all night and talk about a Kings win for a change. Might be the most unlikely of games that you would have expected the Kings to break their losing streak on, but here we are, 112-101. Want to do a nightcap?
Let's do it. What's up, Matthew? What's up, Mike? Good to see you all. And yeah, we'll be right back with your nightcap. We're here. We're drinking beers. And we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you enjoy awesome Kings content like this, please hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, in case you guys forgot what Peja's face looks like, here he is in the flesh. He's watching today because we won.
He is happy to be here, and so am I. I hope you all had a wonderful evening watching a Kings victory. I'm not going to lie, I did not predict a Kings win tonight, and I know you didn't either, Calvin. But hey, at this point, we're taking every win we can get, right?
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. All right, Jim, what's up, Jim? Good to see you. He is right. We are undefeated in February. That's right, 1-0. What's up, Cole? Good to see you. Gothen, good to see you guys. Dennis, thank you all for joining us. Sorry if I missed anybody. Jay, Drew, Jeff, Dennis. Yep. Thank you guys. B. Walston. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight. All right, Calvin. Let's get right into the box score.
Let's get into the box score. Harrison Barnes leads all Kings scorers with 19 points, 6 of 9 from the field. He had 7 rebounds and 4 assists as well. 4 starters in double figures. Davion Mitchell, another good game for him, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 8 of 19 shooting. Tyrese, 12 and 11 assists for another double-double. And then the bench finally showed up today. Buddy Hield, 18 points on 7 of 18 shooting. Damian Jones had 12 points in 27 minutes. And Metu, another double-double, 11 points, 12 rebounds in 23 minutes.
Anybody you want to highlight on the Nets tonight?
Yeah, Kyrie Irving and James Harden, because they did not show up today. James Harden, I don't know what happened to him. 4 points, did have 12 assists and 8 rebounds, but just 2 of 11 from the field. And Kyrie was 5 of 15 from the field for 14 points. Nicholas Claxton leads the team in scoring with 23 points and 11 rebounds. Congratulations to you if you had that on your bingo card, because I don't think many people did. And that's why I say sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Yes, the Kings played better than what we've seen from them in recent weeks, but no Kevin Durant. And the other two, the Nets are not an equal opportunity scoring team. Yeah. I mean, Nicholas Claxton had 23 tonight. James Johnson had 18 off the bench, but that's because their best players couldn't buy a bucket tonight.
And they're on a back-to-back after playing Phoenix last night. So, but hey, Kings victory. I'll take it any way that I can. What's up, Fred? Good to see you. Hopefully you're getting your hat soon. I know it's on the way. Fiery Gamer. Anthony, what's up, guys? Welcome, welcome. So, Calvin, I want to know who your king of the night is.
Man, that's a tough call. Part of me wants to give it to Buddy Hield, actually, just because he's been so bad lately.
I was going to lay into him tonight before the win.
Right? But I thought Harrison Barnes played a really complete all-around game. Very efficient, led the team in scoring. He's been really good for them. as of late, especially since Darren Fox has been out. So I probably give the nod to him, but you could give it to a couple people really tonight. Tyrese didn't shoot well, but he had a really solid game all around. 4 steals, really active defensively. So yeah, I think Tyrese, Harrison, those would probably be the top 2 picks, but I'll go with HB.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he started out really, really hot in this game. And as you mentioned, 6 of 9 from the field tonight, 3 of 5 from three-point range, 19 points. I saw an interview with Matt Barnes midway through the game, and he's like, HB needs 15 shots in this game. Like, he should be getting them up. And it kind of reminded me of that Luke Walton talk, right? Where Luke Walton's like, HB's a much better three-point shooter than people give him credit for. He needs to be hoisting it up the whole time. But, you know, we always talk about game flow, right? And, like, it's great to have 30 points on 20 shots, but you're not going to get that amount of shots every game because it depends on the flow of the game. And different players, if you're a star player, maybe you get that many shots every night. But if you're a role player or just one of these other pieces, it's not going to be consistent. I think that really showed for Tyrese Haliburton tonight. He didn't have 10 or double-digit scoring tonight until the fourth quarter. He was there in the assist category, but only 12 points for him tonight. And I say only because we saw him have a huge 38-point outburst just a couple games ago. I want to talk about trades in the next category. I want to talk about motivation. I watched an interview with James Ham this week about guys, quote-unquote, quitting for the Kings. And I want to talk about that a little bit later, so I don't want to touch on it too much right now. But I have to say Tyrese Haliburton is definitely not one of those guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you know, everyone has off nights shooting, but when you run the team, when you run the offense, you know, you can still obviously have a really big impact and put your fingerprints all over the game. And that's what Tyrese did tonight with the steals, with the assists. It helps when your other teammates are actually making shots, you know, like Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Davion Mitchell. And, you know, I'm seeing a lot of people raving about Davion, and he did play great. But the difference between Harrison's game and Davion's game is Harrison had 19 points on 9 shot attempts. Davion had 18 points on 19 shot attempts. Yep. So he's just a much more efficient scorer. I think Davion takes more difficult shots because a lot of his shots are off the dribble that he's creating for himself, whereas Harrison can rely on the point guards or the other players that have the ball in their hands, backdoor cuts, open threes, things like that. Not saying that he can't go and get his own shot, because he can, but they play a much different style, obviously. Yep. The Kings finally just had a complete game as a team tonight, though. That's the biggest difference. That's why they won. I mean, the Kings are not anywhere near a good enough team to get by with 1 or 2 people having a good game and the rest of the players on the team not picking up the slack.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Hickman. I see you there in the chat. Also, Brian. What's up, Brian? What's up, Alfie? Welcome, welcome. I see you guys all here. We have Makami in the house. Makami, if we get 30 likes tonight, Calvin said he's taking a shot at Crown Royal. I'm just putting that out there. So just so you guys know. But yes, another Kings victory tonight, Calvin.
Another?
Well, I mean, they've won.
That's true. It is their 19
games on the season. So I could say finally a Kings win tonight. But you mentioned HB. What is the main difference that you saw in him tonight over? I mean, he started out the season so hot, playing incredible, shooting over 50% from three-point range. He's been in a little bit of a drought lately. So I don't know if you could officially say tonight was his coming out party, but it was one of the better games he's played in the last month, 2 months. What did you see different from him?
He's played fairly well in a bunch of games, I would say, over the last 2 months or so. I think there's 2 things really that affected him through the middle part of the first half of the season. One was obviously the injury. He missed a bunch of games. It was a foot injury, so I don't know if he came back, how much it was bothering him initially, early on. But he definitely, there was a moment where I started to see him moving better on the court. He was cutting harder, planting better, things like that. So I definitely feel like the foot injury bothered him for however long you want to say. And the other area that I'm going to point to is Darren Fox being out.
Yep.
Early on in the year, Fox was struggling. His shot was not falling. They needed somebody to pick up the slack scoring-wise, and he came out of the gates just raining threes. He was shooting incredibly well, and he has actually shot well from three all season long. But that first part of the season, he was over 50% for a good 2 weeks. He was just on fire. He couldn't miss. Then De'Aaron gets hot again. The ball starts to come out of Harrison's hands more. He doesn't have as many opportunities. He gets hurt. He then has to work his way back in physically to the lineup. Now De'Aaron gets hurt, and he has COVID earlier.
Yep.
Which means that Harrison Barnes plays a bigger role, gets a little more comfortability out there, a little momentum, and sometimes that's really all it takes. You know, I mean, if you're a good shooter, we always say with Buddy, right, like it just takes one or two to go in, and then all of a sudden he can explode. Well, Harrison Barnes is a really consistent shooter. And it's the same thing for any shooter. If you make a couple, especially early on in a game, or you have one good game, that can easily roll into the next 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I definitely believe that I think he's played very solid all year long. He's played very solid for probably the last 5, 6, 7 years. But the things that have changed over the past month or two are, one, him coming back to 100% from that injury, and two, De'Aaron Fox not being on the court. So they need somebody else to take those shots and score the points.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't think you were going to say the F word, but you did. De'Aaron Fox. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the second section because I'm hearing a lot of things that I don't really like. But on your point, De'Aaron Fox missed another game tonight with a sore ankle. I'm sure there's probably some other things sore on him as well. But he was not available tonight. We'll talk about that in depth in the next section because I got a lot to say about De'Aaron Fox. And I want to finish up on the game here before we get into that. Mo Harkless tonight, 34 points for him. 34 minutes, 10 points for him. I saw some incredible defense from him tonight. And, we talk about leadership, and this team has just needed a vocal leader. We've seen him be vocal during the season, right? But not to, I guess, the extent that you would want. This is his first game starting in a little while. I thought it was a great performance for him tonight.
Yeah, I think he did start maybe 1 or 2 games last week or something like that. Marvin Bagley was out, so he got
I think it was
once or twice. But regardless, I mean, he started a bunch of games overall this season, most of them early on in the year. And he's just another one of those players, he provides a lot of good things on this team, but he's a classic role player. So role players make good teams better when they can stay within their own roles. Exactly. When you have a team that struggles like the Kings and you are always looking for the next guy to step up, who's it going to be? Who's going to help De'Aaron and Tyrese tonight? Is it Davion? Is it Buddy? Is it Metu? Is it Marvin Bagley? Is it Rashawn Homes? Is it Mo Harkless? You're not going to get that type of consistency out of players who are role players, because that's what role players are. I mean, they are consistent in some ways, but you're not looking for big outbursts from them every night or major impactful games. You're looking for them to do their job and fill in the missing pieces or the rest of the puzzle. So he's a good defender. He's got a lot of length. He can get to the basket. He struggled shooting, but if he shoots well or if he knocks in a couple outside shots and scores 10, 12, 14 points or something like that, the Kings become a much more different team.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that we really touched on during this 7-game losing streak was bench production. And I think a huge part in that was the fact that De'Aaron Fox was missing. Davion Mitchell has been moved into the starting lineup. Incredible game for him tonight. 18 points, second in scoring among the starters, played 35 minutes. But the Kings bench, they only played 4 guys tonight off the bench, but they were able to produce, 44 points tonight off the bench for them. What's the difference you saw out of these guys?
Well, the biggest difference is Buddy Hield. I mean, he's struggled immensely, over the past couple of weeks or even longer than that. And for him to come in and be productive off the bench, it totally changes the game. Just like I was saying for Mo Harkless or any of these role players. If they're able to have a solid performance, it totally changes the way teams have to play the Kings, because you can't just key in on Tyrese Haliburton or Darren Fox if he's playing, or Davion Mitchell or whoever's the one person that's having a good night. You actually have to play a more balanced defense and cover the whole floor. I also feel, we talked so much early on this season about rotations and lineups and the fact that the Kings had, maybe 12 or even 13 guys deep that they felt like they could really play on any given night. But the question was, who would get that nod? That whoever had the hot hand on whatever night seemed to get the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, they've really rolled back their rotations. We don't really see Tristan Thompson anymore. We don't see much of Alex Len anymore.
As soon as the COVID outbreak was kind of over.
Davion Jones has been in and out. Metu played a ton early on. He hasn't really played as much lately. Part of that is because Marvin Bagley started to come on a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this team never really got into a real groove of like, who are our main guys, on any given night. And that's had, I think, both types of effects on them. It's given them the strength of having all these guys that they could play. So depending on the matchup, if they're playing a big team or not as big of a team, they choose to go with certain guys. But it also doesn't give you a lot of continuity, and it doesn't give your guys really a chance to develop a rhythm and kind of get comfortable out there, because they never know when they're going to play or when not.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking here in the chat. I see some people talking about Tristan Thompson, talking about Darren Fox. Yeah, unfortunately, Fox was not available tonight. He's got a sore ankle. It's not a sprain. It's a sore ankle. And like I said,
James Ham had some pretty eye-opening or ear-opening comments on the D-Lo and KC podcast.
Yeah. And like I said, stick with us here, guys. We're going to talk about this in the next section once we finish up the game recap, because there really is so much to talk about when it comes to the F word, Darren Fox. All right, Calvin. So we saw Metu tonight. Pretty active, 11 points for him, a steal, 2 blocks. I love what I saw from him, especially late in the game, where we saw the Nets were like just, they were out of it, maybe down 10 with like a minute and a half left. Many Kings fans or fans in general would say they were out, they were not in the game, but they were still trying to score. And a lot of teams, they take their foot off the gas. They're like, oh, the game's over. I saw Metu blocking shots at the rim, saying, you guys are not getting a shot here. I don't care if we're up 10 and there's a minute left in the game. I want to end this. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way you're supposed to play, right? I think that also comes down to what we were kind of just talking about. And for some of these role players, they don't know when they're going to get a chance or how much time they're going to get in any given game. Will they start? In Metu's case, he started a bunch of games. He's also come off the bench a lot. How many minutes is he going to play? Sometimes he plays less than 10. Sometimes he plays 30 minutes.
Yep.
So when you're in that situation, anytime you step on the court, no matter whether you're up 50, down 50, tie game, first quarter, fourth quarter, you're playing, essentially for your basketball life, for your career, for more opportunities. So the easy answer is, well, yes, you have to have that mentality all the time when you play, whether you play 4 minutes or 40. But definitely, I think that comes into it.
That's the tough part of being an NBA player, right?
You're trying to get paid too, right?
Yeah, and you got to be ready when your number is called. And, a lot of people say it's tough to be a star player in the NBA. but it's almost, in my opinion, it's almost tougher being one of these guys that only gets minutes every fifth game or, every other game. And you got to be ready. And when the lights are on, all of a sudden they're like, hey, J.R. Smith, you're in the game. You need to shoot the three. You need to make it. You need to make the right pass. I don't care if you haven't played for 3 games. You need to be ready right now. Otherwise, all the criticism falls on you. Yeah,
it's 100% harder to be a guy that's trying to make an NBA roster than a star. 100% harder. You can say all the weight and the pressure is on the stars' shoulders, but at the end of the night, they still go home. They just made $500,000 for that one game.
Oh, yeah, more than
They're not losing any sleep because they're not worried about showing up to the facility the next day and being told that they're traded or that they're cut or anything like that. They have security.
That's the place to be.
100%.
What did you think about Rashawn Homes tonight? 21 minutes, 9 points, 9 rebounds, a block, only 1 personal foul. I don't know why he only played 21 minutes tonight, but Kings win, so I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, he really hasn't played big minutes since early on in the year before he got hurt that first time. Ever since he's gone through the injury problems and then through the COVID spell, he hasn't played big minutes at all in a game. And I don't know if that's just because they feel like he hasn't gotten back to the point where he can play those minutes, or, again, the fact that they've had guys to step up in that situation like Davion Jones or Tristan Thompson or Alex Len. They have a big cast of those people, and a lot of them are young players. Well, Davion Jones, for sure, a young player. Metu, young player. So they're still trying to give those guys opportunities. I still love Rashawn Holmes, everything that he brings to the table. He's just a very dependent player, which, you can make that case for a lot of centers. There are very few centers in the NBA that you can say they're not dependent on the other players on the court for scoring. They can go out and get their own basket.
Some of the best centers. Gobert, dependent.
Yeah.
Capella, dependent.
Definitely. Yep. So he's still a very valuable person on this team. I just think that the problem for him right now is with the year that the Kings have had and the realization, I think, of all the people that watch this team play, in that this group of players is not good enough together, so changes need to be made. He's one of those people that's like right on the line, right on the fringe of that. Someone that I think a lot of Kings fans really love because he's gotten better every year he's been in Sacramento. He had a great season last year. Now he's got these injury problems, so it's you're trying to figure out how much is that really bothering him. How much is all the guards coming in and out of the lineup bothering him? So it's a very fine line to cross.
Shout out Key Kings 8. Happy to see you here. Thanks for joining in. He said, Kings win, and I still have no clue which direction this team is heading. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that in the next section, but I think Calvin and I agree. All right, Calvin, a few more things I want to touch on before we move on here. I want to talk about Buddy Hield. I want to talk about your keys to the game, or your key to the game. And I think the Kings achieved that tonight. But before we talk about that, so much has been said about the combination of Tyrese Haliburton, Darren Fox, whether that would work out. The Kings end up drafting a point guard this year in Davion Mitchell, and he's been starting recently. I thought they played excellent together. 30 points combined tonight, 14 assists, 5 steals between the two. And most importantly, the Kings win the game. What did you like? What did you dislike from that tandem tonight?
I think I just echo what you said. They do seem to balance each other out pretty well, because Davion is kind of like a junior Darren Fox. I mean, they go about their business in the same way offensively, in that they're isolation players. That's what both of them have been good at their entire lives. They're really good at creating space, creating their own shot. They're very quick, very athletic. Davion, though, is not quite as much of a, a lot of people call Darren Fox a ball hog, which I am not going to say he is.
Ball dominant.
Ball dominant. And Davion's a better outside shooter too, which is something that Darren Fox doesn't have in his game. So Davion can, when Tyrese is running the offense and handling the ball, Davion can be available for an outside shot. Whereas Darren Fox will be available, but the percentage chance that it goes in, I know Davion hasn't shot tremendously well this year, but I would consider him a better three-point shooter right now than I would Darren Fox. So he can just go about his business in a slightly different way offensively. You can run different sets. You don't have to run as much isolation, which you certainly can with Davion, but he hasn't earned that yet, whereas Darren Fox has earned that ability, and he's going to play the heavy minutes, so he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot.
Everyone talks about the size of Davion Mitchell, right? I feel like that's his biggest knock. If you were to say anything negative about Davion Mitchell, you're not going to be talking about his work ethic. You're not going to be talking about his basketball IQ. All you can really talk about is his size, right? And I feel like Tyrese Haliburton is not, I don't want to say oversized in a negative way, but he's bigger than a lot of point guards in the NBA. So does the size of Tyrese allow Davion to be a little bit more effective?
No, I wouldn't really say that, because Davion's still going against players that are bigger than him, regardless of the fact that his backcourt mate has bigger size. It creates a situation where the other team has to say or decide who's going to guard who, basically.
Yep.
But Davion still has to make up for the size advantage regardless, both on offense and on defense. The reason the Kings drafted him was because they felt like he could guard players bigger than him, which he has shown in college that he can do. Now, doing it in college and doing it in the pros is a very different thing, because in college, while you might go up against guys bigger than you on every given night, they're not going to be NBA players every single night.
Yep.
In the NBA, they are NBA players.
They are. Even Luke Walton's an NBA player.
Even Luke Walton. So it's just I think Davion ultimately can make up for his size. I mean, there's been many, many players that have played in this league for years and years and years that we all said, well, they're too small. And they succeeded. It's a small percentage, but they still did it.
Yeah.
Earl Boykins. I mean, there's a lot of players. Muggsy Bogues. That's the most extreme case, right? But Davion Mitchell has all the tools to be a solid pro in the NBA. What his ultimate ceiling is, or what his potential is, all-star level talent, stuff like that, I'm not really sure yet. He's still, I feel like he rose to the level that he's at very quickly. He was not a very highly recruited player coming out of high school. Even his first couple years in college, he wasn't a household name, but he worked his ass off to get to that
work
point.
ethic. Yep.
So I still have faith that he can work his ass off to be a starter in this league for a long time.
I love the work ethic.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's contagious.
It's the only thing that you can't teach, right?
And that's what the Kings need, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Kings need, is they need that work ethic. That's the problem, is we've just I feel like it's the old debate, right, of like, okay,
Mike, we need one more like, and then we'll give the people what we want. What you want.
I'm too smart, so I don't have to study for the test, right? Like, yeah, that works for maybe junior high, maybe high school, but then you're handicapped because you're not developing those skills of studying to be prepared for more complex subjects. So then when you get to college, when you move further on, you don't develop those skills, and you just were relying on, if I were to make a NBA analogy, you're relying on your athleticism. You're relying on these things that aren't necessarily work ethic involved. They're naturally given talents.
Yeah.
And once you go to the next level, everybody else catches up to that.
Yeah.
And the only way to separate yourself is that work ethic, is going a mile further than the next guy.
It's not the only way, because some guys are just that much more talented.
It's true.
But
That's true.
The percentage of those people is so small.
Yep.
Well, we made it to 30 likes.
Oh, man, 32 already. Nailed it. Oh, man, that's funny. What's up, Alex? I see you here in the chat. If you want to join us on the next section, just hit Calvin up. You want to pour us a couple shots, Cal? And we got to give the people what they want.
Got to.
The last guy I want to talk about before we move on here, because, this has been one of our longest nightcaps in over a week, which is not hard considering they've lost all these games.
Well, when you're not down by 30 or 50 in a game, it's a lot easier to talk about it.
We haven't even talked about how good of a team Brooklyn is at this point, in the fact that one of their best players is only available on the road, and he played tonight. But, hey, the Kings won this game. I want to give a shout-out to James Ham because James was looking at the schedule earlier today, and he said the Kings are on a 9-game losing streak. And I'm happy they proved him wrong, so give a shout-out there. But, Calvin, the last thing I want to talk about here is just Buddy Hield. We could talk about Davion Jones. I thought he had a good game. I was surprised Louis King didn't get more minutes. We talked about how Keita hasn't been getting minutes. But we've been a bash Buddy channel before.
Yeah.
I think it's time to praise Buddy a little bit. 27 minutes tonight. Not the best shooting. 7 of 16.
Don't praise Buddy.
3 of 9. 18 points.
Don't do it.
Almost your player of the game.
Don't get caught up in it. That was a joke.
Almost your player of the game.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. The people want Vinny to take a shot, too. So.
Oh, yeah. We need some more shot glasses. But, I mean, I thought...
Man, this is going to be a big shot, Vinny.
I thought Buddy, played better than I expected.
You want one? Oh, that's you. Where's Vinny's glass?
He played better than expected.
Sorry, guys. We're trying to get everyone shots in the studio.
I was preparing something for the show tonight, and it was pretty negative. I'm not going to lie. We were talking about I've been watching so many Kings podcasts this entire week, and everybody's just been ragging on the Kings, and they're all about.
Before we were watching, or before the game started, Barry looks at me and he goes, "I hope you're ready. I'm going to ask some tough questions tonight."
And I still will once we get to the next section. But one of the things I want to touch on was, do guys quit? How much does it take to break a guy? People have been talking about how Darren Fox is broken by the Kings. It took 4.5 years of losing before he was broken. We've seen Buddy Hield. It seems like he's been kind of checked out for a while. But then he comes in tonight and plays pretty decent. I want to talk about this in the next section, so I don't want to touch on it too much here. But I was going to just lay into him, and I was going to ask you about, let's go down the roster and let's say who's checked out.
Into him.
Yeah, who's checked out, who's still in.
I mean, it's
but
not
he
like
saved
the guy
himself.
had 50 tonight.
That's
he had 18
true.
points.
It's true, but if you look over the last couple weeks of basketball, 18 points is like his last 5 games combined.
Exactly. So lay into him. Give it to him. You want to.
I hate the shot selection. I hate the ISO. I hate the bad shots. I hate him trying to dribble the ball. Just get him the ball when he's open and shoot the effing ball. That's all I want him to do.
Yeah, but even then, he'll find a way to mess that up.
He will. All right, are we all ready here? Everyone's good? Can we all take a shot here?
Yep.
We're taking a shot for
Anthony
likes.
wants to know what beer you're drinking also.
Oh, I am drinking, it's a hazy IPA from Waikiki Brewing Company, where I used to be a brewer, but the new brewer made this beer especially for us, and I have a keg on tap, so it's beautiful.
We do. We're very lucky here. Oh, there you go.
Gotham said...
We're all vaccinated here, so...
Gotham? They were calling me Vini... what was it, my nickname now? Vini Squatch, because we so rarely see...
Vinny Squatch.
Oh, dude, I love that name.
I like that.
Vinny Squatch.
Vinny Squatch. I also saw Go Sacks chant in the chat.
Cheers, King.
So I appreciate that. Go Sacks.
I'm all in. I'm all in for the Sacks. All right, Calvin. I mean, I feel like the only good way to end this section would be us probably drinking 5 more beers and going like this and listening to music for 15 minutes. But we probably can't do that.
Everybody's. It's like I think our friend Trade. We'll just call him Trade because every name is different.
Just call him T. Yeah.
T. He said that it's like the Kings just won the championship. So
I do not feel
party
that
like
way.
it's 1999. I guess I don't know.
Party like it's what, 1962 or something? 1961. I do not feel that way. I do not feel like they just won a championship. However, I'm always happy for a Kings victory, so I will take that. Yeah, 50 likes and Gothen's drinking a double, he said.
There you go. Double vodka and Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah. All right, guys. We are going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your Kings with Around the Crown.